Hey everyone, this is Lisa Baudouin. Welcome to Lisa's chat room. Today I'm going to talk about some computer basics and then also to share with you how I fixed my touchpad because it was broken, it wasn't working, and it was driving me insane. But before I begin, I have to disclose I'm not an expert in anything. Anything I share with you, if you try it, use it, or buy it, you do so at your own risk and peril. Also, too, I'm not affiliated, endorsed, or reimbursed by any product or company that I talk about in my videos. And finally, if you get something from this video, please give it a like, subscribe, share with friends and family. Drop that comment below because I do vet and read every single one. All right, so getting into this, I'm going to stress, I'm not an expert at this. You also do this at your own risk and peril. I would definitely double check to see the warranty details on your computer, because when you start taking your computer apart and replacing things and adding things, you might subject yourself to warranty being null and void. For me, this does not have a warranty on it. This is my Lenovo X230, and I actually have two of these. And through the years, I've had many computers like most people. I've been around since way before computers were around, and actually a friend of mine was the first time I ever had the experience of a computer. We went up to Milwaukee, bought all the parts for a computer, and we put it together, and it was a tower. And so I learned a little bit, just the basics. I just want to know the basics, right? So the first thing I want to mention, whenever you go to do this, buy any computer, even if you have one now, I would suggest you do this. Get a binder, right? In this binder, through the years, I have all my computer data. Now, the first pages are actually the computers I have. And I have like the information about it. Each computer I have, and I kind of identify them by the model, but also to where they're in my house. Like this computer sits in my office. There's one that's in my kitchen. There's one that's in the kids' room, that type of thing. So I identify them that way as well. But I learn about them, especially, what bit are they? 32 or 64, that's very important. Windows, non-Windows, iPads, whatever they are. You want to make that detail here. Also, too, you might want to write down the serial number and the model type and everything like that and have a page in here. Another thing you might want to do is on the back where the model number is, you want to take some clear cellophane tape and tape over it, because what will happen is this. No model number to be found because it's so worn. This is from, I don't know, 2017, and it's 2026, so this is worn. So you might want to just put a clear piece of tape over it. That's one of the things you should do. This other thing too, this note here, it says there's a switch on the left side of this computer, and if I accidentally hit it, I'll put it in airplane mode. So I put that on the back because I'll forget. I will forget. So anyway, getting back to the binder. The binder is so important, I think. And when I first started with computers, I want to know a little bit about it, just like my car. I'm in the habit of, we all are, I think, in the habit of just using something and not really understanding it fully, which I don't want to be a computer IT person. I just want to be able to work it. And if something minor happens, I want to be able to fix it. So first of all, the first part is the computers I've had, but also too stuff like, what's a USB? And my Lenovo, I love these because this is an X230 again. I love them because they have 3 ports, but there's a 3.0 and two 2.0 ports. Well, what's that about? So all this information back here, this I did myself. How should I format things and whatnot? I have all that information in here. And just computer basics, what's the difference between a byte and a kilobyte and a megabyte and a gigabyte and a terabyte, right? So with that, I never save anything on my computer. I have done that, and what'll happen is the computer crashes, and then I got to get somebody to take that information off. So for me, and again, this is my opinion, and you do it at your own risk and peril, I use these are external drives. They're 2 terabyte. I think that's plenty big for me. And then what I'll use is one of these things. Now this is where you plug them in and you can toggle them on and off. This is a 3.0, as you can see. And actually this is getting old. I can tell. And you got to be very careful too. You're pushing them on and off, and these can wear out too. So what I do for this, to back this stuff up, is I have DVDs. And here's my DVDs, some of them, not all of them, but I'm slowly getting them on here. I thought, you know what? I want everything on a DVD, and especially my business stuff. And I do have a database for my Lisa's chat room now. So when I make videos, what I do is I have a catalog field on the, whatever video I'm making, and I just write it what it is. So this is about the allergy database. This is DIY House and Home, Therapies for a Better Me series. You get what I'm saying here? So DVDs are good. If you're going to do that, I would suggest doing it with a rewritable. And because the thing is I'm not going to touch these too much, but just in case I want to add something or change something up in that video or whatever it is I want to do, I want to make sure that I can rewrite to it. So it's a little more expensive, but it's worth the cost. All right, so that's what I do for my saving. And then just learning a little bit about the computer, understanding stuff. And I actually talk about this in my health management class. I'm like, this goes hand in hand with health management. So, and then issues, and then this is Access. And actually I have books on Access. I have books on code. That's just basic coding. But then back here I have things like different programs, my printer information, Roku, stuff like that I use. It's a great place to store stuff like this, and that way you've got a reference if you forget something. Okay, so back to this. Now, I've had these, like I said, through the years, I've had many now laptops, and it kind of sucks, doesn't it? Because it gets to the point where the apps just won't work, or they're upgrading to a new Windows or something like that, correct? And it's really kind of a pain, and I'm really gotten mad. And actually I'm going to switch over from Microsoft Office to something called LibreOffice. I'm looking at it, Libre or Apache. I'm looking at both, and actually I like the Apache for certain reasons, and I like the Libre for certain reasons. So maybe I'll make a video on that too. But point I'm saying is you're constantly having to get upgrades, and for me, I have learned the hard way, I'm not going to put a lot of money in a computer. I'm going to put enough money in a computer that I think is worth about 2 to 3 years, or maybe 5 years worth of a computer if you're lucky. And that's about it. I would never spend, these are like $300. And actually you can find them less refurbished now, but in the beginning they were like $300-400. Of course, they've gone up in price, right? All of them have now. You buy them for $1,000. But I love these little ones. They're just perfect for me in my office, because my office isn't too big, and I love the action on Lenovo's, these ones. There are some that have the flat keys, and I don't like that. I like feeling the keys as I hit them, probably because back in the day I used to use a typewriter. So anyway, I have another one of these, and what I did was with this one, I just upgraded it to make it where it had more RAM. And in my book, which is really messy here, I upgraded it so you can see that. But eventually this isn't going to be enough. Like I said, these powerhouse apps, they just keep wanting more and more and more. So, but the next step would be when you go to buy a computer, make sure that you can upgrade the RAM, or it's a really good RAM that be able to work your applications, because otherwise, you can only have 1 or 2 things open and you got to shut it down. So anyway, that's part of buying the computer. This one works fine for me though, and I usually use only 1 or 2 things at a time anyway. They're multifunctional, which is so nice, and they are really getting adaptable. There's nice features that you can split the screen now. I really love that. I don't care for Edge. I use Google Chrome. I don't even think there's a place that lets you delete it, which I think that's kind of sad, but that's because the people who create this collaborate. So point is I know enough where I can turn around and fix this to a point. And again, my warranty's been expired for a very long time. But my problem is my touchpad wasn't working. So about, 2 years ago, my on-off stopped working. And what I did was, just for a while, until I could afford a keyboard, really, I disconnected I think it's called the CMOS. It's a little mini battery that's inside here. And again, you have to do that at your own risk and peril. But I looked it up, and sure enough, that worked for a while. But then I bought a new keyboard. And you can see now through the past couple of years, I really use this because the letters are getting bad. So I've taken computers apart and switched out fans, little things, keyboards, things like that. And another thing that I have are these. These are really nice to have. They're like $10 for a little packet like this. And then I also mark which ones I use. I have to try to figure it out all the time because they all look alike to me. But these screws in these laptops, to me, they're just like socks. I swear to you. I'll unscrew it. I'll put them all over here. And for some reason, one will be missing. It's like, what happened to it? So this is really nice to have. And then another thing I have are some screwdrivers. And I really want to get another one. I want to get a really nice one for here. But I've got some that work just good enough. So, and what happened was the keyboard was so bad a couple years back that I replaced the keyboard. Now, at that time, I didn't want to use the touchpad. It was kind of a pain to me because I'm kind of a lazy typist. I go like this, and then my cursor's all over the place. So I toggled it off. Actually, I did it with the setup when you're setting it up. Sometimes you press F1, sometimes F2. On here it's F1. I actually just went into the setup program and I just disabled touchpad. And I was fine with that. But lately, especially since I got newer computers for the kids and they love the paint programs, I bought some of these. And you can use these on the mouse pads. And I even bought myself, it's on the way, a real nice one with a stylus that you plug in. And I thought, well, I can use that on here because I do lots of studying too. And I'm going to be doing some medical research. I want to draw my own diagrams. So that's one of the things I really want to do. I really find it annoying where I find one diagram that has something I like. Another diagram has this over here, but they're not together. So I'm just going to make my own diagrams. But my touchpad wasn't working. So I went online, and again, your computer binder, any kind of issues that you have, you can put in here so that if it ever comes up again, you will have a reference, at least a board to, like a diving board of where you can start. But I couldn't figure out what went wrong. I went into the F1 settings and they were enabled. Everything was fine. So then I went online and I'm looking at this and I printed this off. I did all these arguments, and I just basically say that I am, looking at these arguments and I'm toggling them off, and if they don't work, nope. And I went over and over and over and over this, and you can see, this is not even all of it. I threw some away. But in your computer, you have all different types of, you have security, but you have levels of system. So, you got you see your settings, and your settings will show stuff. You see your keys, that's your registry. Device manager is basically where your drivers are. And I guess the easiest way to describe a driver, and it's a very loose interpretation. It's kind of like if you're sitting down at the table, the drivers are basically the plates, the knives, and the forks and the spoons that you're going to need to use to eat the food. Okay, so the drivers are basically the knives and the forks and the spoons and the plates to make the applications go. Without them, the applications won't work very well. So right here, I printed out the drivers, and what you do is you right click on settings, you hit your settings key, right click it, and it'll say device manager, and you can get into here, and that's what this is. It's a device manager, and then you can go in and you can look at things, and usually your touchpad's going to be in here in your human interface devices, and also down here in your mice. But if you notice, this says PS/2 track point. Now, in my other Lenovo X230 that I have in my kitchen, it says ThinkPad. I'm trying to think what it says. It says ThinkPad Synaptics. And it's a really nice, and you can get in there. You can click settings and go right into the mouse and the touchpad settings. And on this one, I couldn't get into it. On the settings, there's just one tab for my this is the touch pointer. This worked and this worked, but this didn't work. And I was going absolutely bananas over and over and over. I literally reinstalled the computer, did everything. And then I started to really think. I started going backwards. I remembered that I had changed out this keyboard. So what I suggest is before you even look for any kind of software issues, look at the hardware if you can. Now, again, you do this at your own risk and peril, but I'm going to show you how to do this. And I already have it unscrewed, but what you do is you shut off your computer, power shut down, turn it around, unlock your battery. Oh, I think I got a screw down there. Yep. Unlock your battery and take it off. Okay, make sure you do that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take and undo this screw and this screw. Usually that'll do it. Now, if you're going to do more than that, like clean the fan and stuff, you're going to need to maybe do or replace the fan. You're going to do more than that. You can go on the internet and there's lots of tutorials on how to do that. I do suggest that you take a picture before you start undoing things and even maybe have a plastic bag because I like I said, for some reason, my screws are like socks and they get lost. So, but just for the sake of this video being shorter, I've undone those screws. Then what you want to do is open it up and you want to use a non-metal utensil to pop this keyboard off. And so I used my orange slicer and I did it already. So you want to use something. Don't use metal. Don't use a knife. And then you want to pop it off and it'll come out pretty easily. So be very careful. And when you turn it over, and actually you should have gloves on when you're doing this, by the way. I just don't have them upstairs here, but this is the connector right here for your keyboard. See that? And it connects right over here. All right, so that's the connector for the keyboard. And it goes into here. And I'm trying to think of how this worked. Connects onto here. Okay, it just pushes in here. But what was wrong was, see this right here? This is a little strip, and sometimes they're blue, sometimes they're purple. I don't know. They're different colors. This strip is what activates the touchpad, and it was not connected. And what happened, well, it was slightly connected. What happened was it was sitting like this. So there's a little piece of plastic right here that you can hang on to. And be very careful. Be very gentle. Lift up the little white bar here and just gently put in your plastic strip right there. And then turn down your bar again. Try to make sure it's even as possible. And just don't want it falling. There we go. And you can kind of hear it snap. That scares me. And then put everything back in place. And everything pretty much snaps back in place. Just be real gentle about it. And then put your screws back in. And then once you get your screws back in, put your battery back on. All right, so I'm going to put you on pause for a second. All right, so I've gone back into my office. I might put you on pause a little bit more because I plugged it in. I got the battery in. I got everything put back in. Here's my little drive thing that I was telling you about. Here's my terabytes. This is just a little, it's almost like a library. That's how I look at it. So I really love my little setup the way I've got it. I got a little mouse. Actually, it's a really long mouse pad, so I don't have to have a mouse pad. That's a really nice feature. So let's see. See if I fixed it. Hold on. It's still loading, so I just don't want you to have to sit here forever watching it load. And it's still loading. It takes a while for this. And I have reinstalled and installed and reinstalled drivers, so it might actually be reinstalling new drivers that I put on here. And again, what I would do, I would recommend that you do this first. You check your hardware first and make sure that your touchpad is connected correctly. All right, so now I'm sitting in my office. I booted up my computer. I'm going to check my mouse here. And my mouse is working perfectly fine. It's right there, you see it? And then I'm going to touch the touchpad, and that is also working perfectly fine. Love it, right? And then I'm also going to try this little pen. You can get these for a pack of for $10. There's like 8 of them in there, I think, or something. You can buy these at Walmart. That's where I got these. But anyway, you can just use these then, right, for paint programs and whatnot. Right. So I want to show you now. Mine was the hardware issue, and again, if that happens to you, you got to make sure that strip is in straight, and you also make sure that when you take that white, it's kind of like a little white door. You know, you just open it up and you put the strip in, and you should hear it snap when you put it back down. Just be very gentle about it. Make sure you put your battery back in and your screws back in and whatnot. And then I'm going to show you here. I have my taskbar to the right. I don't have it in the bottom. I can't stand it that way. And Windows, I use a special program in the Windows 11, because Windows 11, you can't do this. They keep taking stuff away. They take stuff away, I'm telling you. But here, if you go on to your start and you click right, or you right click, you go to Device Manager. Right, so here's my Device Manager. Right, so let's see what it says. See, now it's back to Synaptics pointing device, because that strip was not engaged. And the computer was saying, I don't know what you're talking about. You don't have a touchpad. So now that's there. And then human interface devices. Sometimes it won't show up here. So then you have to go up to here, view, show hidden. And it's still not showing it, but that's because these two are doing it. One of these. And I'm not going to mess with it. This is out of warranty, so I'm really actually lucky that it's working. So there's that. And then what I was talking about before, you can go to settings. I think you could even do mouse settings. You can do that, or you can write touchpad. Right, if you go into mouse settings over here, some people have an on off right here. I don't have that on the touchpad, and I'm going to show you. But you can go to adjust mouse settings. See, now this is completely changed. There used to be a tab here. So I'm going to go back. If I can figure out, where am I? Home. Devices. Touchpad. I know this isn't really great, but see here, most of the time it'll say on off when I first got this, and now the updates and whatnot, it's not there anymore. I have to go into additional settings, and now I've got this back. This wasn't here before. This said touch pointer. So because the computer was saying, what the heck, you don't have a touchpad, you did. So now I've got that back, and I can go into the settings, and if they're working correctly, it's a Synaptics control panel, which is really nice, and it shows me general information, click, scroll, gestures, and advance. So I'm gonna leave it how it is. I'm perfectly fine with it. I just needed it to work, right? And then just cancel out. But that's how it should look. And so first thing I would suggest is that you look at the hardware, make sure your touchpad is engaged, because sometimes that can come out. I would also, put a piece of tape over your serial number and whatnot, put your stuff in a binder so you've got it. Like today, what I'll do is I will write down this issue that I had and how I fixed it. What I've gone through, the arguments, I call them the arguments. I'm addressing all these arguments, and none of them worked except for I fixed the stupid strip, right, on the computer. But that's something that I'm going to make sure I put in my binder, because what happens if, I don't know, say in, 2-3 years, if something happens and, I give this to my grandkids or something, and they all of a sudden have an issue with it, I can say, well, did you, here, bring it over, and I wouldn't have them do it. I'd say, bring it over and I'll see if I can fix it for you. And I'll try that. Maybe the strip came undone, that type of thing. Okay, and that finally, the last thing I want to mention is with the issues that we have with the lighting. This lighting can cause problems. At least that's what I'm reading. For me, I have bifocals, and these bifocals, I buy them by the dozen. They're just like socks, and they're just like the screws of the computer, I swear. I don't know where they are. I've got two pairs, and I bought like 3 dozen this year, and I only have 2 pairs hanging around. But they do break. But these are special so that when I'm looking at the screen, it blocks the bad rays. So that's great for me. But for my grandkids, for the computers that I just bought them, I'm going to buy a special thing that goes over the screen so that they don't have a problem. And then they also will have that for their phones. I'm sure their parents already did that for their phones. I would think there'd be some technology now that's going to make it where, this has been such a big discussion. Hopefully the makers of these computers will address that issue. But you never know, so just do your own, protect your kids and your grandkids and yourself the best you can. So that's it for this video. I hope you got something out of it. If you have, please give it a like. Also, too, subscribe with friends and family. Drop that comment below because I do vet and read them. But most importantly, please make sure you stay safe and stay healthy. And I hope to see you back here again next time in Lisa's chat room. Bye.